Hi guys, welcome again to Fitness In. I know all of you want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. I am Aditya, and I bring to you people who are true experts on the topics we love. You can listen to them and you can ask them your questions right here if you're listening to this live. To find out about the next live episode in advance, you can follow me on Twitter and Telegram at FitRedSane. We as a group have always believed in action. And for that, we will simplify the process for you, bringing it down to small, actionable steps, very importantly, that you can take today. Today's guest, Krishan Fulera, has worked with Dell, Steven, and other companies in the past, but he told himself that he won't spend his life in a corporate job, and he targeted that he will achieve fire at the age of 40, and he achieved it at 37. I don't know many things that are more inspiring than that. Honestly, if I tell you how much I have used Krishan's Google Sheets and strategies for myself, you will understand how helpful they are and why I was really insistent on having him here on our show and with our groups to share his wisdom with all of us. I don't think that there is anyone better to learn from than somebody who has achieved fire himself. And I must tell you something here that my starting point many years ago was fire. I found this concept so fascinating that you work for a limited period, but you work in such a way that it brings you income streams for a longer term. That is what actually drove me towards investing, which I found the simplest way to achieve fire eventually. By the end of this live podcast, you will learn about how you can achieve fire, that is, financial independence, retire early, and also much more about personal finance. So, without further ado, let's learn directly from Krishan's experiences and his extreme research. So, Krishan, first of all, something I would like to know from you is, in your own words, what exactly is fire for you?
So first of all, thank you for having me here. It's a nice opportunity because I have done many YouTube videos, given information to people, but this is the first time I am being interviewed. I had interviewed someone on my channel, but it feels totally different to get interviewed yourself. So let's see how it goes. But thank you for the opportunity. So coming to your question, what is fire in my own words? For me, fire is like having a total control of your life. You should have the freedom to live the way you want. Because when I was working in the corporate, you mentioned the company names. I was happy with my job mostly. I mean, sometimes there are times where you do not feel like, okay, I should quit or something, but that's not like, it was not like a consistent thing in my job. I was happy with my job. But the things that I was living in a city which I was not liking, like I was in Delhi, uh, which is full of traffic, full of pollution, and anything that you can like about a city was not in that city anymore for me. When I started working, yes, I liked the city, but eventually, because of those issues, I stopped liking it. So that was the first thing that drove me towards fire. Till that time I didn't know what fire was, so I never cared about it. I was also planning to work till I was 60 or something of that age and then get retired as other people do. But once I learned about fire, it was a total different perspective I got from those people who talked about fire, and I was like, okay, this kind of lifestyle is also possible. So for me, fire was the thing that I wanted to achieve from that day. And at that time, I decided, okay, I will try to achieve it as soon as possible. But with time, I realized that it's not like today I've decided, tomorrow I can start my fire journey or I can get fired. So to plan that thing, I had to do step by step things. So fire for me is total control of my life, which I can say I do have it now.
See, that is something I have also shared with our group so many times that fire is not necessarily about having excessive money or about having so much money that you never have to think about buying anything. It's about control over your life and your time. That is the most important thing. I would like to share with all of you that, as Krishan mentioned, that he was happy with his job, but he was not really enjoying the pollution and traffic of Delhi. So now he has control to move to the mountains. He lives in the mountains now. And that is something that most of us can just dream of till we achieve fire. So yes, that is also how I got smitten with fire in the first place many years back, about having that control. And just one more thing I would like to point out from your answer that I really loved. There are many sessions that I have attended about life coaching in general also. And one, you mentioned something very important, that it's not like you were not happy in your job. You wanted something better. That's a different thing. And this is something that I've been taught by many experts from around the world, that the true happiness comes not when you are completely happy and not when you are constantly fighting for something more. It comes from a balance of the two. When you're happy with what you have and simultaneously you are striving for something better. This is a slightly difficult concept to understand initially, but once you get the hang of it, that brings you true happiness. You have to be happy today while be striving for the better. That said, now that you have achieved fire, after getting the first thought of it a few years back, what are the steps that you follow together, and what are the steps that you can suggest somebody who starts today should follow to be in your position in a few years?
Sure. So, if somebody is looking to get fired, fired, this word fired is can be, scary as well, because when you're working somewhere and they say you're fired, you don't like it. But in my case, when I fired myself, I was very happy. So I'll use this word fired, but always think of it FIRE, that acronym, the listeners I'm talking to about. Yeah. So if somebody wants to achieve fire, it's not about finances only. That's the secondary part. The primary part is the mindset. Unless you have the mindset of getting into that lifestyle which fire brings to you, you will not be ready for fire. You'll not be able to plan for it. So the very first thing is getting the mindset ready for it. Once you have that mindset or the psychology in that direction, then comes the next step. And there can be many steps, but some basic, very basic steps which are important to be fired, which worked for me. One of them is being minimalist. Minimalist means, whatever I need, I just get only that much. Like, for example, if I need clothes to wear to a party, I will not buy like hundreds of clothes and keep in my cupboard and have a lot of clothes or have a lot of shoes. Anything that I need, I should have it in limited quantity, as much as I need. Similarly, if I want a car, one car is enough for me. Some people, may have two cars, three cars, just because they fancy cars or they want to have cars. It's not about affordability. If you can afford it, it's a different factor. But if you want to achieve fire, your mindset has to be a minimalist. Just have enough which you need, not have more than what you need. Okay, so you can also call it materialistic habit. Like, we are materialistic, that's why we keep accumulating things. So anti-materialistic is minimalist. So being a minimalist will help you. And then once you're minimalist, the act of saving, act of investing will automatically come to you, because once you're minimalist, your savings will increase. You'll not be spending unnecessarily on things which you do not need. And when you have extra money with you, you would think about where should I put it, and that will bring you to the investing part, where you can invest the money so that later on that money can grow and give you the support that you need to be a fired person, a financially independent person. So these are the two main things. I mean, I would say three main things: the mindset, being minimalist, and then starting to save and invest at early stage.
Krishna, you mentioned that if you become a minimalist, I agree that you will end up saving more money. But then, is there a fixed answer if somebody asks you how much they need to fire or how much you needed to fire? Is there a fixed answer to this question, or does it depend on the situation? How do you think somebody can come out with their fire number?
The answer is yes and no. Like, there is a fixed number, yes. There is a fixed number, no. Why I'm saying this is, the answer is yes for those people who have the mindset I talked about earlier, that they understand what a fire means, how the life would change once they're fired, all those things. So if you have that mindset, the answer is yes. You can determine the number that you would need to, number in the sense, the amount of money you may need to support your fire journey. Once you're fired, the finances and everything that will support. But if you do not have that mindset, if you're overly materialistic, you may not know your number. Because, for example, if a person who has minimalist mindset, he, even if he has 1 crore rupee today, he can easily get fired. I mean, in my case, when I got fired, I had a little bit less than 1 crore, 1 cr. Okay, but I got fired, and then I had planned my finances according to how I wanted to live my life and how would that money support me, those kind of things. But if somebody is overly materialistic, he just keeps thinking of accumulating and accumulating, even 10 crore may not be enough for that person. So that's how it is. The mindset plays a very important role in knowing your number.
I completely agree with you because I keep sharing with everyone that your mindset is more important than the strategies you will find than the so-called best investment that you keep looking for. So, Christian, over the last few months, we have had sessions about multi-baggers and about other things, and I keep telling them that you will not be able to stick with a multi-bagger or with fire if you do not correct your mindset first. And secondly, even when you have your file number and you're going for the steps, you have to understand it's a long process, as you mentioned. But then it's still encouraging that when you say that it can be done with a crore today, because normally I feel that most YouTube influencers are saying that you need many times that number. But then I am with you on this that if you can actually inculcate minimalism within yourself, there is a very good chance that a crore even today should be enough to fire. But
Yeah.
then, even if you are a minimalist, do you think tracking your expenses is important? Like, how do you know what is the right number to spend and to save?
uh, tracking the expenses, yes, of course. I mean, it worked for me when I started my journey or planning towards fire. I had assumed that I'm spending so and so much money, every month. But then when I started tracking my expenses, which included my EMIs, my groceries, things I would spend on eating outside, cinema, entertainment, vacation, everything, I kept a track of each and everything. You won't believe, when I used to get a photo state of a paper spending 1 or 2 rupee, I would even record that. I was into that kind of expense tracking, but that
So
eventually
that
helped me.
was why you were able to reach there eventually.
Yeah. So when I had not tracked my expenses, I thought maybe I'm spending, just hypothetically, 60,000. But when I started tracking my expenses, I came to know that it was much more than 60,000, and that's when I realized that, okay, I'm overspending in so and so category, and I can cut down my expenses, which then helped me save money and, of course, make my fire journey more easily possible.
So, guys, if you have to take one lesson from our conversation till right now, I would suggest you take this that, as Christian said, no matter what you're estimating your expenses, when you actually start noting them down, they will turn out to be very different. And this is something I've seen for everyone across the board. Do not think that you are better at estimations or that I am better. It is a very difficult thing. We typically, our minds work in such a way that, especially luxury expenses, our minds tend to downplay, and the necessities our minds tend to exaggerate. Because whenever you are at a dinner conversation, I am sure Christian will agree with this, people will keep telling you how the prices of necessities have increased. But when you actually look into it, the definition of necessities might have changed for us.
True,
So
very true.
just try to see if it's actually the inflation that is increasing or is it your lifestyle inflation. I feel it's much more about the consumerism movement that is being spread around the world. So, Krishan, I would like to know your views about it. Is consumerism, is it something that we can fight, and how do we develop the attitude for minimalism? And are there any other mindsets that we need to achieve fire and to spend more, less, and to earn more and to save more?
Yes, of course. Consumerism is like a virus. When I realized what consumerism is doing to me, it was a very, very hard thing for me to turn against, as in, turn the consumerism thing out of my life. I still get impacted by that. So for listeners, consumerism means, when we see advertisements of certain things, even if we may not need it, we may still get attracted towards that thing. Like, for example, you have a phone of 10,000 rupees today, but you see an advertisement of iPhone and they show amazing features, it takes amazing pictures. Behind in your subconscious mind, it kind of simulates things which make you feel that if once I get this iPhone, I'll be more happy, I'll be able to do better things. So that is consumerism. These people are trying to drive us towards spending on things which we may not even know, which we may not even need. So if we are able to curb that, if you stop falling prey to these consumerism things, these ads, because these ads are played by people who don't even use those products themselves. You might have seen those three guys, Zuban Kesri, three famous actors. Do you think they eat tambaku and tobacco every day, that they are promoting that thing? So this applies to every product you see in advertisement. So we should avoid falling prey to consumerism. Once we do that, we would be able to inculcate the habit of minimalism in our life, and of course save our money. And minimalism is not just about saving money, it also brings peace to your mind. Once you do not have a lot accumulated with you, you feel peaceful when you have lesser with you. So yeah, consumerism should be avoided. You should stay away from it.
There's something on this note that I heard in an interview of Richard Branson. He and his wife sat down once and they decided what they called something like the minimum survival expenses for themselves. And he was like, "Ki as long as and when they said survival, they really meant the survival expenses. And it was like, because I knew that number and because I knew that that number was so low, that is what helped me take more risks in my business. That is what helped me really go out there and enjoy my life, because I knew that no matter what, I can always come back to that number. At least I can get a job, at least that will pay that much. And I can always put all my investments in a, if nothing, in a fixed deposit that can bring me that much revenue. So you should always know that number, that minimalistic number that you can fight for. And ask yourself, as Christian mentioned about buying a new phone, just ask yourself that if you buy a new phone today, and so many times you must have bought newer things in life. So if you buy a new phone or a new car or anything new, for how long does that happiness of the novelty last? At least for me, even if I buy a new car today, I'll be happy that day, I'll be happy the next day, and the third day it will be the same commute from home to office and back. It won't be adding any value to my life after that. And that stays same for cars as well as for phones and for most new things. And I'm sure most of you will agree with that. But then that said, at least for me, what happens is there is a problem also with this. Christian, at times I also forget that I have to at least at some part enjoy my life also. So there are some people who do not invest or save at all, and they're just enjoying life, or at least they are trying to buy happiness. And on the other hand, there are people who are not able to enjoy at all, who are counting every penny and thinking about whether this should spend the next 10 rupees or not. So, what is the balance, do you think? How do we create this balance between the present and the future?
Again, that comes down to the mindset. Unless we have the right mindset to realize, what we are spending at and how much we need to save, why we need to save, we will not be able to move towards that direction. So it's very important to understand that we are earning to empower ourselves to be able to spend on our needs and desires. One should first ensure that he's keeping aside enough money to meet the basic day-to-day needs, then keep some aside for desires, which includes buying items which are not necessary but we fancy, like we want to have something. The example I gave as of a mobile phone, it may not be necessary that you need such a high end phone, but because you fancy it, you want to maybe show it off, or just because you're too driven by consumerism, you may spend on those things. Or maybe going on vacation or spending on rejuvenating activities, you also need to do those things, but in a limited way, especially those extra items that we buy. So once we have curbed that thing, once we have realized how much where we need to spend, it's easier for us to manage these things. Uh, then one should also need to keep some portion aside for helping the needy people. You might have heard from big gurus or somebody that just accumulating in life is not going to help you, not going to give you peace. If you start giving, then only you will have peace in life. So money will not bring that kind of peace. For getting peace in life, you need to have that attitude of, okay, I'm ready to give what I have accumulated. I'm ready to give some portion of my earnings to those people who are needy, etc. So that way you can control these kind of things.
Thanks for bringing that social angle in the financial discussion. And this is something I've seen that comes only and only and only with experience. So hats off to you for paying it back, as they say. But to everybody, I would really recommend that you try paying back the society in some form. I know the thought of parting with your money that you have worked hard for and that you have certain aim for yourself for doesn't sound very nice. It doesn't sound like something you would instinctively want to do. But uh, the peace that you will get after it, see, ultimately everything boils down to happiness and peace in life. It's not really about the figure of money that you have accumulated. It's about how much peace and happiness that is bringing you. So and I think charity is the highest return on investment for this. Uh, with charity is the only thing where you pay very little and still you end up getting a lot of happiness and peace in return. So do definitely try it. Now, going a little, slightly different direction, Krishan. We always hear about the positive aspects of financial independence, and I'm sure that I am convinced absolutely that 99% of it is positive. So I would like to ask you, like, you have been fired for a few years now. So is it entirely positive, or are there any negatives too? How do you feel after being fired for a few years? And if somebody is aiming for early retirement, should they handle just the money aspect, or should they also, are there also other aspects of life they should think about from right now?
I had covered this in detail in one of my videos. Let me see if I can cover it again here. So being fired is not just about money. It's about, the mindset, the psychology. Plus, also you have to make sure the family understands. Like if you are married, you have a wife. Your wife should understand that you're planning to get fired, and what would that mean? Because uh, someone who is earning salary, the salary may stop because you may have a different plan after you're fired. You may have investments, you may have passive income, but that salary, in our middle class society, the salary word is a very, very catchy word, and people just love that word because every month it's going to come to you. But once you announce that I'm going to get fired, that word is going to maybe get removed from your life, because mostly when we get fired, we're not working for someone for a fixed salary. We would have maybe investments or some other kind of earning sources, but usually salaries are not there. That's like 99% of the time that is how somebody gets fired. Okay, so if you have to prepare for fire, the mindset, the family, everything has to fall in place. And then you have to plan, okay, once I'm fired, this is what I'm going to do. Because if you do not plan how you're going to keep yourself productively busy after you're fired, you may not like your fired life. Because if you're planning that once I'm fired, I'll be going on vacations, I'll be just spending, I'll be just eating, I'll be sleeping, that is not how the fired life should be planned. Because that is, it's not like, you're going on a vacation for a short while. Once you're fired, it's like a lifelong thing you have decided for yourself. So you want to stay on that path for lifelong. So you have to make sure that whatever you are going to do after fire, it's something that's close to your heart, that keeps you busy with a smile, not just like, for people who are into a job which feels sometimes, very binding, and they want to get out of it. So if you're getting out of that life, you have to make sure you're getting into a life which makes you feel happy, not just for a few days but throughout the rest of your life. So that is the most important part about planning for fire. And then comes the financial part, we which have kind of covered in my various videos, with examples, slideshows, etc. But the other thing about negative side of fire, thankfully I haven't seen much of it. But yes, I would say, I can give you an example, like my mother, who was very conservative about my job. in my job, I used to get the opportunity to go abroad, on events, etc. And then I used to earn a handsome salary. So when I announced it to her, she was the only person who was the most worried. And keeping her aligned like that, even after when I got fired, that was the most challenging thing for me, because even today sometimes she points towards, why don't you look for a job? So that aspect kind of still haunts me. Like, I've been fired for more than 2 years, but my wife is okay. She understands. She also got fired. She was in a government job. I planned fire for her also. So she fired at an age of like 34 or something. But my mother is, so your family members may want to drag you back to that salary tag, that they have understood in their life. So that is a negative aspect. Plus, the income sources you may have decided for yourself after the fire, we have to make sure that they're kind of diversified. You should not be just depending on one income source, because if that's the case and that income source somehow gets destroyed, or some hindrance comes in there, you may have issues, because that's the only income source you have. So make sure we diversify our income sources. So if one source is not working, some other source should work for us. So these are the kind of negative things which I have you know experienced a little bit, and also read about or learned about.
The family part is something that I could have imagined, because see, the as you said, in our middle class especially, the word salary is so deeply ingrained that, and this is a concept that I've been fighting against on a personal level with everybody I know, that the answer to what do you do or how do you spend your time should not necessarily be related to your job. I think I am more than just how I earn my bread. And we have to get out of this mindset that somebody who is maybe working three different types of part-time jobs, is doing anything less, or maybe they enjoy one and one is for sustenance. So this entire question of what do you do, I have always been very against it. And yes, I understand that if it's so difficult for me to explain this to friends, it will be so difficult for you to explain this to your family, that just because you are not getting a salary does not mean that you are not happy or that you're not living a financially fulfilled life. So now, Christian, coming to the million-dollar question that most of your followers would probably have been waiting for, that once you achieved fire, I think that is when you really, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not really sure about this. I think you actually got into the stock market deeply after you achieved fire, especially into swing trading strategies. But in general, you will always hear that stock market is the most risky way of making any money. So how do you balance the two things? Ideally, after fire, instinct tells me that you would want to work with something that is very safe. You would like to put your money in something that is very safe, not risking your capital. However, you moved to the stock market deeply after achieving fire. So what made you dabble in the stock market at this point?
So, slight correction there. I did not get into stock market when I got fired. I was already into stock market, and stock market is something which helped me decide, can I get fired? Because after being fired, I knew that I would not want to do a job, because till the time I'm doing a job, I'm not fired, right? So I wanted a source of income which would keep me busy first thing, and should not be time constraint. Like, I should not be working every day from so and so hours. I should not have restrictions on my holidays. If I have to plan my vacation, it should not restrict me where can I live, and if I have to work. So stock market came to me as the best option. And I've been doing stock market since 15 years or more. Initially I started at a very low level, like every retail user might have, lost some money, and then slowly learned with experience, learned from YouTube. But once I understood that share market has the potential, and when I was not fired, I was working like in 2020, 2020, after the corona time, I started my big investments. I was still working, and then that big investment started giving me rewards. I was learning myself. I was teaching other people through my YouTube videos. I was learning from my Guruji, who's a YouTuber, Mahesh Kakkar. So slowly I learned that share market is not that scary as people portray it to be. Yes, you have to be disciplined, you have to have the right expectation to make sure you understand what share market actually is, what can it offer, what can you earn from it. Some people have the notion that some people, in the sense like some people I meet on the street or some in relations, when I tell them I'm in share market, they say, okay, here's my 1 lakh, can you make it 2 lakh after 1 year? I'll be very happy. I've heard that share market can do it. I straight away say thank you very much. I'm not that kind of investor, and I've not seen it, those kind of things work consistently well for anyone. So you may be able to make 1 lakh to 2 lakh in a particular year, but every year you cannot be like 1 lakh to 2 lakh and 2 lakh to 4 lakh. It cannot just keep going at 100% or those kind of numbers. So I had that realization, and that's helped me to dabble into share market with safe strategies, and I was able to scale up my money because I knew that whatever I'm investing in is safer compared to other strategies or other notions people have. So that's how I was able to get into share market, and I'm still with it. I'm able to teach other people how they can plan their journey, and this is something that which will not make me get retired at 60 years. There's no age limit on that. So there are a lot of benefits of being in share market, because I'm just treating it like any other business, which has a lot of good things which other businesses may not also have.
So basically, your decision to get into the stock market comes back to the first question that I asked. That is, you wanted to control your life. You wanted to do something that could be done independent of location, that could be done with a smaller capital and could be expanded to a much larger one. And of course, as you said, it has no retirement age. And
Correct. Yeah.
thank you also so much for mentioning Mahesh Kaushik sir. Again, I have been watching his videos for a very long time, and to be honest, I don't think I mentioned this to you also. The first time I came across your video was as a suggestion while watching his ones, and today here we are. So again, thank you to Mahesh Kaushik sir for that, for bringing us also together, and for bringing you to this platform to help me also and to everyone who's listening to us right now.
Yeah, I would
Now,
say, I mean, if someone is to be given credit for my share market learning and journey, it would, the most credit goes to Mahesh sir. He has been like the beacon, the guiding light for me.
and I feel it's really amazing on your part to not forget anything about him, to mention him repeatedly in your videos also and here also, even after all these years. Uh, Most people just learn, take something, and try to package it in a different way without mentioning where they actually learned it from. But that's not the case with you, and that is, I think, the beauty of the peace that you have within yourself, that you're not really afraid of giving credit where it is due and also taking credit where it's due. So, when we talk about the stock market, the way I see it, if you can add more options, please do. It starts with mutual funds, then ETFs, then stocks, and then options in order of complexity. Now, options are, of course, purely trading. But if we talk about ETFs and stocks and mutual funds, SIP, who do you think should stick to SIPs and when should one move to ETFs, and which kind of investor has earned the right, I would say, to move to direct stock investing?
So it depends on a few things. First of all, if somebody is a beginner in share market, they should stick to ETFs for live trading. Live as in they're buying themselves, they're selling themselves. If they do not want to do that, they want to just stay invested passively, mutual funds are better because there you can just set up SIPs and automatically that gets deducted from your account and you get units, etc. And then later on you can just withdraw whatever amount you want to. You can completely withdraw all of it. So mutual funds are for those who are looking for passive investment. ETFs for those who are looking for entry into share market, but with proper risk management and safety, because stock market is full of unsafe things. If you're not doing it correctly, you may even lose your money investing in ETFs or mutual funds. So one has to be very careful. But ETFs are considered to be very least risky elements because they're baskets of shares. They're based on indexes mostly. So if an index has to move, it may go down, it may stay there for some while, but eventually all the indices we have seen, they're moving upwards in the longer duration. So it's safer to invest in them. Suppose I buy something today which is at all time high, it may go down from here, stay there for a few months, and then start moving up again. But the same may not happen with stocks. If a stock goes down and fundamentals have, they're not good anymore, the business of the company is not good anymore, it may not rise back again. Some stocks may get delisted, some may go even down to towards the 0 rupees point. So a beginner should not start with direct stock investing. As and when you gain confidence, you gain experience, you have earned some money using mutual funds and ETFs, then one should start looking into stocks. And if somebody is starting with stocks, they should just keep themselves to the safer area, which is like Nifty 50 and Nifty 100 universe.
Okay, so that covers the investment part. And now, as you mentioned repeatedly, and thanks for doing that, that ultimately, no matter how safe you try to be, you can make mistakes in the stock market that can lead to losses. So you really have to know what you're doing. Now, coming to the more risky part, if somebody wants to make regular money, should one start options trading, and who do you think can start options trading and who should not?
So option trading is a game of sellers, what I have learned and experienced. And for being a seller, you need a good amount of money, because if you're going to play naked option selling in stock market, it's very, 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 very risky. People may not understand it. Some people just fancies, they see YouTube videos of people who show 50,000 profit in a day, 1 lakh profit in a day. I see them, many times in advertisements, but it's not true. So if you have to play safe in the market, as I said, start with ETFs. If you are a beginner, then you can move on to the stock direct investment in the safe Nifty 50, Nifty 100 area. And then you have gained like 1 to 2 years of experience. You have good enough capital, and good enough, I mean, if you're going to go into options trading, 10 lakhs is something you should have, because you should not be doing naked option trading. You should always have a backup of cash behind it. Cash, as in, I have strategies on my YouTube where you can learn about what that means. So if something goes against in your option trading, you should have a backup that gives you your lost profit back. I mean, whatever money you have lost, you should have a strategy to convert it back into profit. So you need to have a backup of capital if you're going to do option trading. Initially, when I started option trading, when I had very less knowledge about it, I was into option buying, and I didn't make much money. Sometimes I would make money, then the other 3 times I will lose that money. So consistently, it was not making me good money. But once I started option selling with those safe cash backing, then I started making some good money in option trading. So my advice is, only if you have a good capital to support, then do the option trading. And when if you're a beginner, do not touch option trading at all unless you have somebody who's guiding you.
Guys, this is the beauty of all the strategies that Christian has shared on YouTube and that he regularly uses himself also. That they are not clickbait. He won't tell you that you can start options buying with a capital of 10,000, or you can start options selling with 1,000, 1 lakh, just because that is the minimum margin required. He very correctly said that you should have at least 10 lakh in your pocket to start options trading. And that is why I got attracted to his channel initially, because and his strategies initially, because try to understand there are no shortcuts. If anybody is telling you that you can start options buying, and with the most out of money option you buy, you can buy it for a few hundred rupees also, maybe, or at the max a few thousand, you will be able to make some profit in it. That is more or less impossible in the long run. It won't happen. And that is what Christian will tell you honestly in his strategies. Most people on YouTube want your clicks, that is all. And that is why they'll keep telling you how one simple step will quadruple your money in a month, or whatever they do, or 21 दिन में पैसा double for that matter. But all of Christian's strategies are back tested, and they're just not direct enough. Actually, no strategy is direct enough to be explained in a few minutes, and that you can just start following from tomorrow and get a 30% CAGR. That is not how it works. You need to spend time on them, and that is why I highly recommend that you go through your strategies. But Krishan, from your point of view, somebody who hears about your YouTube channel today, like I'm sure many of us, not me, but then many of the people listening today would have done. So if somebody stumbles upon your content or your YouTube channel today, how do you recommend they start? Because one problem can be overwhelmed with a number of strategies. Now I understand all of them are for slightly different purposes and all have a different meaning in your portfolio. But if somebody is to start today from your channel or your Telegram channel, uh, what where do you would you recommend they start? Something that is easy to implement and something that a beginner can do.
Okay, so as I do recommend in my videos also, when you watch my videos, there are many strategies. I totally agree. I counted the strategies. I think they were standing at 30 at recently, like 30 different strategies. So whenever you're watching my video or any person who's presenting a strategy video on YouTube, make sure you have a tool to back test it, because you can never future test it unless you invest the money. And to make the money, you have to invest in it. But to get the confidence, to get the psychology, you have to make sure you understand how it has worked in the past. So if a backtesting is available, which I try to do more in most of my videos, they like make backtesting available, and also make backtesting available in a way that people can backtest their own stocks or ETFs or mutual funds for their own desired period, so that they can check for themselves, like how would it have worked in so and so period with so much of capital with these stocks, etc. So always do the back testing of any strategy you do. Do not think that you watch the video today, from tomorrow you should straight away start. Never believe what you're seeing in the video unless you have back tested it yourself, you have understood the working of the strategy yourself. So having said that, if you want to try out some some strategies which have worked for most of the people, which are simple enough to implement, to mention a few, the ETF shop, it's working wonderfully for me, for my wife. The Fire shop, which is kind of an upgraded version of the ETF shop, that 20 DMA breakout. And if you want to do it in purely stocks, then try the Share Genius swing trading strategy. We do it in Nifty 100 space. And I do have a website for Share Genius share trading strategy, where I've shown the working of the strategy, the backtesting results, and how it has worked actually, not just the backtesting, but how it has performed since last 2 years. The person who is following me, he diligently, and he only does the SST in a particular Zerodha account, so no other strategy in that account, and that's how he's able to share what profits he has made, what transactions he has done. So I've posted his results on that website, and the other resources that you would need to understand and implement that strategy. So you can check it out on my channel. I can share it with Aditya, and he can pass it on to the listeners. And if somebody wants to try option trading, I would recommend two strategies on my channel. One is Solar PKP and Virtual House. These two strategies are like my topmost strategies, where most of my money is invested, and these are making money for me almost every month consistently. So for option traders, these are the two strategies.
So I'll just repeat the names of the strategies you mentioned for everybody's benefit, and I'll also list them on our Telegram channel later. So you mentioned for people who want to stick to ETFs and stocks, they can go for ETF shop, Fire shop, 20 DMA breakout, and Share Genius swing trading. And people who want to go for options as well can go for either Solar PKP or for Virtual House.
Right.
Now, one thing that you mentioned again perfectly. So this is a suggestion to everybody that many people, and it happens to I think every beginner in the stock market, that you we start by listening to tips on Twitter and Telegram and YouTube. Now there are two problems with that. One is you obviously don't know the credibility of the person telling you that tip, and secondly, even if let's say that the tip goes in the correct direction, you won't really know when to sell. That person who gave you the tip is not really obliged to tell you when to sell also. So it becomes a mismatch of mindset, of goals, of risk appetite. Don't do that. If you really have to follow somebody, the one simple test that I have found, and Krishan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the first thing you can do is for their strategies or tips or whatever, are they providing at least one of two things, either a backtest or a dashboard of all the tips they've provided till today. If neither of these are there, it makes no sense. You cannot just randomly take somebody's random tip from somewhere and start investing or trading. The least you can do is ask them for a dashboard of all the suggestions they have given till today, or at least if it's a trading strategy, then a back testing of that entire thing, be it Excel or be it an Opstra or Sensible or wherever. But if neither of these are there, that's a very, very good sign to absolutely run away. So, Krishan, I'm
Absolutely correct. One more thing I want to add, when
yeah.
you're watching YouTube videos, you want to make sure that the person is not just talking about the positive side of the strategy. Everything in share market will have both sides, the positives and the negatives. If you just see the positives and start investing, you may not be ready to face the negative side, or if the market crashes down or if the market is sideways, what should you be doing, what should you be expecting from that strategy. So make sure those things are covered by the person who's presenting the strategy. I'm not saying follow my strategy or any particular person's, follow whatever you are able to relate to, but make sure the things that they're talking in the video are logical and can be verified uh, by you looking at the historical data. Then only you should start investing into it. Unless you have verified these things, back tested yourself, do not get into any strategies. Otherwise, very soon you may realize that that strategy is not meant for you.
As they say, you can always consider the number of followers somebody has or the reach they have, but you don't know how that has been created, whether that is fake or not. And some recent examples that people who are active on Twitter would have seen. I'm not taking any names here, but then just do not fall for so called credibility, because it is your money, it is your hard earned money, and nobody will care about it as much as you do. Now, Krishan, since we are nearing our 1 hour mark that we decided initially, so I'm sure this is the first of many, many interviews that are being taken of you rather than you being posting your videos. So there's just one last question that I would like to ask you, and this is one question that we ask all our guests, because as a community we believe in taking action. We believe that there is way more information on the internet than there should be, but we believe in taking action. So people listening to you for the first time and people who want to start their journey either towards fire or towards stock market trading, what is this one small step that you would suggest that they can take today before they go to sleep that will put them on this path, and along with any parting words that you would like to share with us?
So for people who are looking to plan towards the fire, the thing I would want you to think about is learn to be minimalistic. I mentioned it earlier also. I explained what that means. So if once you're minimalistic, you are able to save money and you're able to get peaceful mind. A lot of things come with being minimalistic. So that's one thing. The other thing you want to uh, make sure you're doing is never stop enjoying life today to live it tomorrow. Some people may think that, okay, I'll save everything I have and then one day, after some days, I'll start enjoying. That never should be your goal. The life is to be enjoyed today. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Yes, of course, we should plan for tomorrow, but we should not stop living a life today. We have to live it today, and we should also make sure we are creating a life in a way that we are able to enjoy tomorrow as well. And
Thank you so much.
for people who want to start their stock market journey, or maybe take it further if they're already into it, can come and check my channel. That they would share the links with you, and I've mentioned some strategies which are good for beginners or for everyone who is doing share market. If you want to consistently make profits, I'm not saying that so and so profit. I never promise profits numbers or anything. The profits would depend on your discipline and the implementation that you do. But yes, they are able to capable of consistently giving you profits, and give you peaceful profits, because sometimes your you do investment which do not let you sleep overnight. No, not that kind of strategy. The strategies I have mentioned are something which will give you peaceful sleeps, and you can then enjoy those. So do check out my channel if you feel that it's worthy of it, and maybe you can then try those strategies after back testing them.
Thank you so very much, Krishan, for your deep words of wisdom on fire and about how you can be in the stock market without sacrificing your peace and sleep. And as Krishan taught us today, please always remember that it's not just about the money, it's about the control you have over your life. And this is something I'm saying from my personal angle. I'm not sure if this applies to everyone, but there is no greater strategy of achieving control over your life than minimalism. There's something coincidentally I have preached for a long time, and maybe that is why I got attracted. That is another of the reasons I got attracted to Christian and his channels. That we agree on this part also about control over life achieved through minimalism. And thank you so much for sharing the names of the strategies. I will post them as well as the link to Christian's YouTube channel, Fire in India. I will share it right after we sign off. Do check it out. It's definitely worth it. You will learn so much about swing trading. And if you go through a few of his videos that he posted initially, you will also learn a lot about so many other topics like how you can optimize your credit cards, how you can optimize your home loan, how you can think about your expenses and savings, and so on and so forth. So, thank you so much for being here. And as always, follow Fitrit Sane on Twitter and on Telegram for many such enlightening conversations and daily actionable tips. And to everybody who has been with us throughout the session, thank you so much. Stay in touch.